Okay, in this video we are going to actually run the little task application that we created and see it going with MongoDB. So let's take a look at a couple things. Now I am running MongoDB in a Docker container. I just use the command for docker ps. If you want to follow along with this, you do need to have Mongo up and running on your local host. So I chose to run in Docker because that's my preference. If you're on Windows or OS X or Linux and have installed it natively, make sure that Mongo is up and running. Otherwise, JHipster and Spring Boot will not be able to connect. So let's go ahead and come over here. And just to recap, just in case you missed this before, when we're running with JHipster in development mode, which is what we're doing right now, we need to run in two windows. One is going to bring up the Spring Boot application, which is going to be functioning as our backend. And then the other is bring up a Yarn server, which is going to serve up all the web resources on a special port. And it's going to talk to the Spring Boot backend on port 8080. So let's go ahead and start this up. And right here on lines 24 and 25 are the two commands. And I just ran them a second ago. Do clear, and I do history. We can see a list of the various commands that I want. And I'm just going to show you, this will work under Linux or OS X. I don't think it's going to work under Windows, but I use the history command. And what I want to do, I can do bang 581. And for the exclamation point, that is sometimes called bang. So that's going to tell the bash shell to run the history command of 581. So go ahead and hit this, and we can see that the default task is going to be brought up, which is to run the Spring Boot application in development mode. And we can see that Spring Boot is now starting up. And a little bit of chatter here as we start up. We can see that we are now up and running on port 8080, which is exactly what we want. But we want to also start up the Yarn to bring up this little development server here. And that takes a second to start up. It's going to go through and build the modules for us. And we can see a bunch of log chatter there as it starts up. Almost there. And now we can see that we are up and running, and I get a little notification window here on OS X. And if I come into account, we can sign in. And I'm just going to use admin. That's right on the home screen from JHipster. So we're all using defaults here right now. So I'm now logged in. And let's go ahead and look at our entities. We'll take a look at task. Create a new task. Let's go ahead and check that out. And we can see that that task is there. We can edit it. And we can see that that is happening too. And let's see here. Let's go ahead and inspect the database too. I'm going to bring up Robo3T, and we'll take a look at that record inside of MongoDB as well. So again, we're going to connect localhost 27017. That's our default port. And now we can see task app Mongo. So that's the database. And we can see that there's a number of tables here. So the JHI, that's all the security stuff. And these are things that have been set up by JHipster, so some different collections that are happening there. And let's go ahead and take a look at task. I'm double-clicking on that. And if I expand this out, we can now see the MongoDB document in the database that was created under the JHipster application. And you can see that this object ID is actually a special property inside of MongoDB. It's not just a string, but we are getting a string value assigned there, and MongoDB did assign that object ID for us. Yeah, we'll come back over here and take a look. We can see this task ID, all that's being mapped by that object ID value there. So that's how that is tying together inside, underneath the covers inside of MongoDB.